Purdue, Ball State, week 1 is tomorrow. Pre-game show starts now.
You are Locked On Boilermakers, your daily podcast on the Purdue Boilermakers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into another episode of Locked On Boilermakers here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I'm your host for today. I'm Nick Arvin. We got all things for Purdue coming on today. We got a football episode coming because tomorrow is the day we've been waiting for, the first game of the Barry Odom era. Purdue takes on Ball State, and we'll have that coming for you today. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner tomorrow. In fact, visit FanDuel App today and start planning your future bets now. We got a jam-packed episode. Like I said, we got week 1 predictions. Purdue, Ball State. What's going to happen? What do I think? What do I expect? We're going to talk about what are the expectations for Ryan Browne going tomorrow into his first start of 2025, his first week 1 start as a collegiate quarterback. And then we'll end off the show with some Big Ten picks for the weekend. We had some games Thursday night. We'll talk about the results of those, how that affects Purdue, what I expect based off some of the MAC teams. They've really been competing with the Big Ten. I've been surprised to see. So we'll talk about how that affects Purdue, what to expect. But let's go ahead and jump right into our week 1 predictions for Purdue tomorrow against Ball State. So we talked all week about Purdue, kind of what to expect, how I hope that Barry Odom, he sets up the running game. He starts it early. The Purdue Boilermakers win the line of scrimmage. They're able to compete within the margins, win that, and, get Devin Mockobee the ball, get him the ball early. I want him touching the ball at least about 5 times that first drive. I want to assert him into that offense, let Ball State know this is what we're going to do. We're going to run it down your throats. Devin Mockobee, a guy who averages 5 yards per carry. Every time he touches the ball, I want him getting that every single time and setting kind of the standard for how this game is going to go. Ball State, you're a MAC team, Purdue, Big Ten, and we should have the expectation that Purdue is going to kind of set that standard. This is the Big Ten standard. And like I said, Thursday night, we haven't really seen that. We've seen Minnesota be in a battle with Buffalo, Rutgers against Ohio. They won on a last-second field goal. Wisconsin was only up 3 against Miami, Ohio at half. I mean, the Big Ten just hasn't been coming in strong. They haven't been asserting themselves, and I expect Purdue to do that tomorrow. So we talk about Devin Mockobee having the ball, but a lot of that comes down to the big guys up front. I expect that offensive line to be cohesive tomorrow. We've seen kind of throughout the offseason that Barry Odom's been plugging different guys in at different positions, and the offensive line is one of the unique positions where you can do that, because obviously other positions, you have your 1s, your 2s, your 3s, but at the O-line, you can plug different guys in different places. Say you have a kind of a surplus at right tackle. You don't have a left guard. You can kind of mix and match there. But I want to see what Barry Odom throws out. I want to see who the starting 5 are tomorrow. Obviously, he didn't release a depth chart going into this week, so that's something kind of unique. We're going to have to see, tomorrow when they step on the field. So that'll be exciting. It'll be exciting to see this new look O-line. Obviously, last year, that offensive line is somewhere that kind of struggled. 14 different guys had to plug into that offensive line, and Barry Odom really addressed that in the transfer portal, bringing in 9 different guys, because he knows this is the identity that Purdue's going to be successful with. We saw last year, Purdue's offense especially, they didn't really have an identity under Ryan Walters, and you're not going to win games that way, whether you have more talent on the field or not. And especially this year, when we know Purdue's probably not going to have as much talent as a Penn State, Ohio State, some of these teams that Purdue plays this year. But if you're able to build that identity, like we talk about, if you're able to build a scheme that revolves around your best players, and Devin Mockobee, he's the best player on the field. He's going to be the best player on the field Saturday against Ball State. You have to game plan for him. You have to build up a kind of a play call that favors him. You need to go that opening drive, kind of script that drive. Obviously, you had all offseason to plan what you're going to do on that opening drive. And I'm sure that it's been scripted, and it needs to be scripted for Devin Mockobee. That tone needs to be set, and it needs to be set early, because we've seen in week one, these Big Ten teams have gone into these MAC games, and they haven't set the tone early. And that's something that we need to see for Purdue, and we need to see that happen. So I expect Devin Mockobee to get the carries. I expect the offensive line to really step up. I think that we'll find a lot of success this year on the offensive line. That's something that hasn't been talked a whole lot about, but Barry Odom brings a couple of UNLV guys with him, whether that's Jalen St. John, graduate transfer, Hank Purvis, and Mason Vicari. Those three guys have really plugged in. And also Auburn, you get a guy in the transfer portal, and a Braden Joyner, who's kind of an interior guard, who we may even see him hop on that line. So a lot to be seen from that offensive line, but obviously Devin Mockobee is the consistency that's been through this program through the first 4 years. So I don't think that we'll have much to worry about from his perspective tomorrow, but also creating a defensive identity. And Sanders Ellis, that's a guy to look out for. I've been talking about Sanders Ellis all month long. You bring him in from Tennessee State. Great linebacker, and he's kind of jumped in on this defense. He's kind of jumped in for this team and became a bit of a vocal leader for that defense, for that team, and he's really stepped up. When you think about the linebacker position, that's kind of what you want as a defensive coordinator. You want your linebacker position to be your leaders. You want that to be the voice of the defense, and we've seen that specifically. Sanders Ellis has come in. He's really stepped up as that leader, and he's kind of led that defensive unit, and I expect him to be all over the field tomorrow. So we need to see Sanders Ellis kind of hop in, show what he can do. And without him, I don't know if this defense is going to be as good as I expect them to be this year. I do think that the defense will be a little bit better than the offense, but that all starts tomorrow. An identity needs to be set, and it needs to be set early. That's kind of the key theme for Purdue. I think that if Purdue is able to set what they want to do early, if they're able to script that first drive, if they're able to find success there, if they're able to just make a statement. We're the bigger team. We're the better team. Ball State. You may be feisty. You may be chippy. You may have a chip on your shoulder like we've seen these MAC teams have had, but we are the better team. We're going to set that identity, and we're going to score early. That's what I want to see for Purdue. That line is set at 17 points. So obviously 2 touchdowns and a field goal is what our friends at FanDuel believe that Purdue is going to beat Ball State by. And I want to see Purdue win by about 3 touchdowns. That's what I think would be a good number. Obviously, after Thursday night, I don't know if that's what we can expect, because it sure has looked like week one for a lot of these Big Ten teams. These teams haven't necessarily shown that they are ready for the season yet. And obviously, you kind of sort some stuff out. But I think that Purdue is ready, to be honest. We've seen that Barry Odom has brought in all these transfers, 50-plus transfers. That's the big storyline going into the season this year. But I think that he's gotten this team ready, to be so honest. He's done a great job of plugging guys in. And we talk about how that depth chart not getting released. It's unique because not a whole lot of teams do that. Most teams, they do release that depth chart, kind of figure it out. But Barry Odom, for the depth chart and for the quarterback battle until Ryan Browne was selected, who we'll talk about here in our second segment, he's really had an identity of wanting to elevate everybody on the team, not just the starters, not just the backups, not just the third strings. He wants to elevate everybody. And that's why kind of we're in the situation that we're in. But I expect that's kind of going to be a good thing for Purdue, because you're going to have different pieces. You can have different guys that, hey, they may not be starters this week, but if they get in, if they prove themselves, they may be starters going into week 3, maybe starters going into week 5. So that's something to keep a lookout. Obviously, there's a lot of new faces. There's going to be a lot of new guys that really impress, whether that's in the secondary, whether that's the linebacking core, whether that's on the offensive side of the ball, on the offensive line, different receivers. I expect that we should be in for a fun season, to be honest, and it all starts week 1. My score prediction, I expect Purdue to win by about 21. So I'm going to say 31-10 Purdue. Obviously, I hope that doesn't come back to bite me. I hope that Purdue is able to get it done and kind of get it done with ease. I've talked this week that obviously Purdue is expected to win. I want Purdue to win. I think that Purdue will win. But I don't just want to see Purdue win. I want to see Purdue turn heads, and they have the perfect opportunity. Teams struggled Thursday night. If Purdue is able to go in, take care of business, and kind of do it with ease, it proves that Purdue is ready for the season. Purdue is ready for kind of the moment, and they didn't take Ball State for granted. They really went in, they were prepared to win, and I hope that they're able to win and cover. You know the phrase, good teams win, great teams cover. And I'd like to see that with Purdue. I'd like to see that tomorrow. So we'll have more here for more here Purdue football here in our second segment. We'll talk about Ryan Browne, what he needs to do, the expectations behind him, and how he can impress some people tomorrow against Ball State. We'll have that here for you next. August 26th is officially FanDuel's Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for the bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions, so whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week one even kicks off, this is your moment. So take a flyer on the MVP race. Maybe Jalen Hurts is able to assert himself and those Eagles. Maybe Pat Mahomes puts his Chiefs back on the scene, or you maybe crown your champion in August. Maybe you think those Eagles, they'll go back to back, or the Chiefs, they'll come back and kind of make a face in that dynasty. Well, you can make all those picks if you just visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. In our last segment, we talked about some predictions for Purdue. I said that Purdue is going to win that game 31-10. And that's something that I hope that we see. I hope that Purdue really kind of submits themselves early, comes in ready to play, and, scores early and maintains a lead. I want to see Purdue win with a certain amount of ease that you should expect when you're playing up against a MAC team, something that the Big Ten Conference really hasn't proven they're able to do, as the MAC has really been competing so far going into week one. But part of Purdue's success, I'm not going to say all of Purdue's success, because I do expect it to be a run-heavy dynamic, but that's all going to fall on the shoulders of Ryan Browne. He's the quarterback. He's QB1 for a reason. And when you think about a football team, when you think about success in a football team, a lot of that falls onto the shoulders of your quarterback, whether that be you have a running identity like I expect Purdue to have, whether you're a team air raid offense that relies on your quarterback. It doesn't really matter, because he's the face of your team. He's kind of who the blame is going to fall on when you're bad. He's where the glory is going to go when you're good. And that's Ryan Browne's role this year. He's ready for it. He goes to UNC this offseason, comes back after hiring a Barry Odom, competes against Malachi Singleton all offseason long, and he's able to earn that starter spot. So when we talk about Ryan Browne, when we talk about what he's good at, a lot of that comes down to the Illinois game last year. That's kind of the first time that we saw Ryan Browne take the field. And honestly, it was quite impressive. He entered that game, never playing a down of college football. As a starter, he's never started a game of college football. He goes in against Illinois, throws for 297 passing yards, 3 touchdowns on the day, and rushes for 118 yards. And obviously the passing yards pops out, almost 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. But I want to talk about is those rushing stats, 118 yards on the ground as a quarterback. When you talk about the amount of kind of success that you can have with a quarterback that has the dual threat capabilities of Ryan Browne. And the crazy thing is, when you think about Ryan Browne, you don't necessarily think of him as a dual threat quarterback, but he's really shown that he has the potential to be just that, not just kind of drawing stuff up for him. He's proven that he's able to do that. If Barry Odom wants to draw up some quarterback action where he keeps it, that's perfectly fine. We'll see Ball State run a lot of that with Khalil Kelly, who's really cemented himself as a dual threat quarterback out there at Ball State. We'll see him tomorrow. But Ryan Browne isn't just a dual threat quarterback. He's a great improviser, and that's something that we're going to see a lot this year. I hope that we don't have to see it a ton. I hope that the offensive line is strong enough, good enough in pass protection that Ryan Browne doesn't necessarily have to scramble around for his life a whole lot. But when you talk about where he can find success, that is where he can find success. If he doesn't like his initial read, if he can't find someone open, if he doesn't like it, he has the ability to get outside the pocket, run it, and extend the sticks for a first down. And I expect we'll see that a lot this year. Ryan Browne transforms this team in a way that I think that Malachi Singleton would jump in and be really good for Purdue. And I'm not saying anything against Malachi Singleton. I think that he's a heck of a quarterback, and that quarterback battle, went on as long as it did because Malachi Singleton is so good. But I think that Ryan Browne is unique in the fact that he does the right things. He creates the right opportunities and he makes the right plays for you to win. And I think that he's a better improviser than what Malachi Singleton was. They're both great dual threat quarterbacks, but Ryan Browne proved that he was able to be a little bit more cautious with the ball, and that's going to be big for Purdue this year. You don't have the margin of error to turn the ball over. Ryan Browne needs to protect the ball. Don't throw interceptions. When he's on the run, don't fumble the ball. Slide before you get hit. Do the right things. Make the high IQ plays. And I honestly think that Ryan Browne will find a lot of success this year. I think that people will kind of be surprised with the talent that he has. Obviously, we see it against Illinois. And when I talk about how good he was against Illinois, a lot of the kind of conversation is, yeah, it was one game. What happened against Oregon? But Oregon was a different animal last year. That defense was so incredible. And that's a freshman quarterback, a redshirt freshman quarterback that you throw in against a top defense in the nation. Obviously, he's not going to find success. He didn't have the team around him to find success. And you can't really knock Ryan Browne for that. But I think that if we see Ryan Browne in this Barry Odom system, if we see him in this new system, I expect him to find a lot of success. And I want to see him find a lot of success. You talk about week one, what you expect from your quarterback. Well, I expect Ryan Browne to come in and throw for more than 150 yards and to throw for more than 2 touchdowns. I think that we'll see that out of Ryan Browne. I think that he'll have a good day at the office, and I think that he'll make enough plays for Purdue to win. Obviously, Purdue needs to focus on running the ball. That's what we talked about in our first segment, and that's what we're going to talk about all year because that's where Purdue is going to win their games, running the dang ball. But when you have a quarterback that, and I don't mean to phrase this in a way that makes Ryan Browne sound like a game manager, but I think that Ryan Browne needs to make the right high IQ plays. If he's able to make the high IQ plays, you don't need him to be a Jaden Maiava, what USC is going to need Jaden Maiava to be. You just don't, because you have a culture, you have a system around Ryan Browne that creates the opportunity for him really not to be the whole offense. You don't really need to rely on Ryan Browne a whole lot. You don't need to rely on him to throw for 300 yards, but he can. He's shown that he has the ability to do that. So I think that the versatility that Ryan Browne offers you, the versatility that this offense is, that Ryan Browne is going to fit into, I think it's perfect for where he is, the way that he is developed as a quarterback. And for a redshirt sophomore, you don't want to put too much pressure on him. But if you're able to develop him this year, if he's able to take strides, I think that he may be a career guy here at Purdue. I think that he can be a guy that really builds this program with Barry Odom the next 3 years. So obviously all that starts week one. That's a lot to look forward from, and it all starts week one. But I think that he'll have the ability to find success against Ball State, and I think that he's going to be able to carry that across the year this year. And one thing that people don't talk a lot about is, obviously, I sing the praises of Devin Mockobee more than maybe anybody, but Devin Mockobee is going to open up opportunities for Ryan Browne. Whenever Devin Mockobee is running that first drive, whenever you script all those plays up for Devin Mockobee, whenever he's getting 5, 6, 7 yards a carry, what happens when you run it down the field? What happens after that first drive? What happens after that second drive? Well, the safety is going to bite. That defense is going to start biting on the run, and that's when you throw in some play action. We saw last year at UNLV, Barry Odom ran some great play action. I expect that to continue this year. We've seen Ryan Browne be really good in the play action. Devin Mockobee is the best, one of the best running backs in the nation. So underrated. I think that play action will be money this year for Purdue, and I think that Ryan Browne is a great quarterback, perfect quarterback to run that. So that's something to keep a lookout on. I think that Ryan Browne will thrive in play action. I think that's where he'll be the best this year. I expect us to see a lot of play action from Barry Odom, from Purdue, and it all starts with the running game, and it all starts with the IQ of Ryan Browne. We'll see Saturday, success. Can we find success with Ryan Browne, with Devin Mockobee? Will that offense be clicking on all cylinders? We'll have a post-game show for you following that game to talk about what happened in that one. But in our next segment, I want to pick the games on Saturday. We saw what happened Thursday. We'll recap that. We'll pick the games on Saturday, then we'll get out of here. We'll have that for you here next. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rugiet might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege and use LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege and use promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safetyness, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. We've talked where I expect Purdue to find success at in week one. I've talked my predictions for Purdue in a 31-10 win over Ball State. But now it's time for this segment to pick all the games on Saturday, pick the Big Ten, see what's happening, and see which games are going to have some types of implication on Purdue. Obviously, not into conference play yet. So a lot of Big Ten MAC games, and we'll talk about that. Tonight, when I'm filming this, it is Thursday night, late Thursday night. So we're kind of nearing the end of that Nebraska-Cincinnati game. It's 20-17 at the 2-minute warning right now. So I won't have the results on that one. Looks like Cincinnati's kind of rallying. But earlier in the day, we saw Rutgers and Ohio. I thought Ohio may have a sneaky chance to, kind of compete in that one. That's one that's I had kind of predicted. I didn't necessarily know if Ohio would win that one or not, but Rutgers was in a close battle with Ohio, gave up 31 points on the night, and narrowly win that one 34-31. So not the best display for Rutgers defense tonight. Minnesota was in a close one with Buffalo right until the end. Big night tonight from Darius Taylor, 30 carries, 141 yards. So we can see already that Minnesota is going to rely a ton on him this year, getting 30 carries against Buffalo. And then Wisconsin versus Miami of Ohio. That was one tonight that really stunned some people. We saw that Miami, Ohio kind of stayed in that game till the near end, until that second half. It was a 3-0 game. So a lot of questions for Wisconsin. Their quarterback gets taken out earlier in the game, so they rely on their backup. O'Neal had to step in that one. So Wisconsin survives Miami of Ohio despite not the best offensive performance on the night. But I want to go ahead, get into these games, get into all of them, and I'll make all my Big Ten picks for the week. So Friday, tomorrow, today, whenever you're watching this, probably today. Tonight, Michigan State, Western Michigan. I got Michigan State in that one. The spread is 21.5. I think that Michigan State, if they're able to kind of be ready, obviously we've seen teams tonight not cover. They haven't been prepared for week one. If Michigan State's able to be prepared, they should have no issue with Western Michigan. I don't think that they'll cover. I think that Western Michigan will cover that 21.5 point spread, but we will see. Then we got Western Illinois and Illinois. Luke Altmaier, senior quarterback, will be looking to put on a show in that one. I expect Illinois to be very good. Number 12 in the AP poll. I expect them to be great this year. I think that they're going to put on a performance tomorrow night in Champaign, Illinois. And then moving on to Saturday. That's all the games we got for Friday night. Saturday, Texas, Ohio State. We talked about that one in the Big Ten show. I don't know what I'm going to do because Ball State and Purdue's at the same time, that noon spot. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to catch that one. I'll definitely watch it on replay if I can't catch it. But there's a lot to talk about in that one. Julian Say and Arch Manning. That's going to be the big storyline in that one. Two young quarterbacks that haven't necessarily proven themselves in two really big programs. We see Ohio State. They win the national championship last year. They have two of the best players in the nation, the best player in the nation, and Jeremiah Smith. Caleb Downs, one of the best defensive players, if not the best defensive player in the nation. I have Texas in that ball game. I think that Texas is going to be able to beat Ohio State. I think that team's defense is a little bit more ready for the moment, a little bit more battle tested. I think that it's going to give Julian Sayin a bit of a hard time in his first game at Ohio State, his first game as a starter. We'll see. Obviously, it's hard to lose when you got a guy like Jeremiah Smith. He's just so good, so talented. And then moving on, Florida Atlantic and Maryland. This will be a closer game than a lot of people expect. Florida Atlantic should be seen as a team that may be able to pull it upset against Maryland. I don't expect Maryland to be very good this year. Maryland will probably be towards the bottom of the Big Ten, but they are 13.5-point favorites against Florida Atlantic. I would once again say I'll pick Maryland to pull this one out. An update on the Nebraska-Cincinnati front. Cincinnati 4th and 7, minute left in that one. So we'll have to see if Nebraska can pull that one out. But going back, Ball State, Purdue. I got Purdue in that one, 31-10. Northwestern, Tulane. This is going to be my quote-unquote upset, but Tulane is favored 4.5. I think that they're going to win by that, if not more. I think that Northwestern is going to be the worst team in the Big Ten this year. I don't know really what to expect out of Northwestern this year. They bring in Preston Sohn from SMU. He's going to be the starter. He wasn't the starter at SMU last year. I don't know how he's going to do against Big Ten defenses. I think John Sumrall and the Tulane Green Wave are going to pull that game out. Then we got Indiana, the Hoosiers against Old Dominion. Indiana will win that one fairly easily. I expect them to potentially cover that 23.5. That's a solid spread. And Bloomington, I like Indiana in that one. Moving on, Nevada, Penn State. I think that Penn State is going to win the Big Ten championship this year. I'm so very high on Penn State, kind of what they got. I think that Drew Aller comes in his senior year. He's ready for the moment. He's ready to prove that he's going to be a top draft pick this year, and for good reason. Last year, we saw that season kind of came to an end against Notre Dame. And that's something that Drew Aller obviously keeps in his mind, that throw across the middle that got intercepted. I think that Drew Aller is going to come with a chip on his shoulder this year, ready to win. I think that Penn State's going to have no trouble in that game against Nevada. Then moving on, a 3 p.m. time frame. Oregon, Montana State. I got Oregon. Oregon's going to win that one pretty easy. I don't even have a spread on that one. That's how bad Oregon's going to win. Iowa, UAlbany, another easy one. Iowa is going to win that one. I don't know much about UAlbany, but I don't think that they're necessarily going to give them a chance. Michigan, New Mexico. Michigan's been in the news a lot lately because the NCAA brings kind of their punishments down. Some people think it was just a slap on the wrist. I am of that opinion, but they'll handle New Mexico pretty easily. Michigan needs to be a lot better this year. Michigan can't just be mediocre. They need to kind of get back to their winning ways with Bryce Underwood. We've heard so many good things about Bryce Underwood, what he can be for Michigan this year. Obviously comes in as a freshman, so he's got stuff to prove, but I think that he'll be able to kind of jump in and bring Michigan back to where they're used to being. So that'll be one to watch. USC, Missouri State. USC should handle that one pretty easy. Jay Maava, he'll hop in. I expect him to be one of the better quarterbacks. We've seen how good Lincoln Riley is at developing these young quarterbacks into Heisman candidates. So I think Jaden Maava is going to throw for 250 plus yards in that one, really get it done, and, prove himself as that potential Heisman quarterback this year. And then moving on, big game at the 10 p.m. slot, Utah, UCLA. That'll be a fun one. Utah is favored 5.5 in that ball game. I think that UCLA is actually going to pull the upset on the Utes in an old Pac-12 matchup. Obviously, Nico Iamaleava, that was a terrible pronunciation on my part, but he comes over in the offseason, a lot of drama there surrounding him, surrounding Tennessee, all that. But he comes in. I expect him to have something to prove this year. I expect him to put UCLA over the Utes. And then on the final matchup of the night, 10 p.m., Big Ten Network, we got Washington, the Huskies. They take on Colorado State. On the nightcap, I think that Washington gets that one done, and I think that Washington proves that they deserve to be ranked in the AP poll. That was a big storyline. Washington makes it not in the AP poll, and I think that Washington will get in there eventually. I expect Washington to have a much better year this year as they kind of transition past the Kalen DeBoer era. So we'll have all those games for you coming up tomorrow, Saturday. It's the day, week 1. of course, we got Purdue, Ball State. That post-game show will come out right after the game. We'll premiere about 10-20 minutes. Talk what we saw, talk what happened, and hopefully Purdue gets that dub. Hopefully they win in good fashion. So thank you guys once again for joining the first ever Purdue pregame show. We'll have more of these coming every Friday throughout the season. I'm excited. I'm excited for this Purdue football season. I think that there's going to be a lot to improve on, and I expect it to be a pretty fun year. Thank you guys once again for checking out Locked On Boilermakers. Thank you for making Locked On Boilermakers your first listen today. For your second listen, check out our guy, Brian Smith, on the Portal Show. He's got the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings to be the most informed fan on the rapid changes coming to the college football landscape. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you guys. And as always, boiler up, hammer down.